Hey everybody, this is video 2 for our E3 unit on supply and demand. And this time we are going to look at demand. I like talking about demand because it's about me. It's about us as consumers, people who buy goods. And what are we interested in? Why are we interested? And why will we pay more for some things and less for others? So we're going to look at all those different things. You're going to want to go into your notes section to the demand section of that and make sure you fill this in as we go along. Again, many of the scenarios you see in the notes I'll talk about. There will be some that I won't. For the ones that are in there that I don't talk about, think about what you think the right answer is. And if you have a question, feel free to talk to your teacher. So we're going to get cruising. Here we go. Let's begin. All right, when we talk about demand, we are talking about the amount of a good or service that consumers, you and I, are able and willing to buy at various possible prices during a specific time period. So for example, if the date is September 15th, how much of a product am I willing to buy at $1, $2, $3? Okay, how much is the whole market? All the people out there willing to buy at those prices. Now, what you're going to find is that the price and the amount demanded are going to be opposite of what we found with supply. So supply, as the price went up, we saw they wanted to sell more. Well, we're kind of the opposite of that in terms of buying. As price increases, we demand less. As price decreases, we demand more. Makes sense, right? If, I'm buying a t-shirt and it costs $7, I'm much more willing to buy it than if it costs 10, right? We like lower prices and we buy more when prices are low. And so that's kind of the core of what we see with this law of demand. So let's get into it a little bit here. I do need to get rid of those little arrows, clear them off. Boom, there we go. We're good to go. Okay, so the law of demand is an inverse relationship, like I said. As prices increase, our demand decreases because we don't want to pay as much. As prices decrease, we feel like we're getting a deal, so we want to buy more. So you're at the gas station, you have an extra $5 bill. I wish I had $5 at the gas station. Will you buy one or more Snickers? Well, obviously more. We're hungry people. So here we go. If the Snickers cost $1.25, maybe I buy 2 because I'm super hungry today, but it's a lot of money, so I don't want to buy any more than that. What if it goes to 50 cents? Maybe I buy 4 or 5, have them on hand, 1 for each day of the week. That'd be, well, the work week. That'd be pretty good. And then it goes to $3. Now, $3, you might say, that's ridiculous. I'm not willing to pay that much for a Snickers. So maybe you were going to buy 3 or 4, and now you're only going to buy none. Well, you don't want to buy any. Or maybe you're like, I'm still hungry, I'll buy 1. So obviously the price impacts how much we're willing to buy. So the key concepts are willing and able. Now these are AirPod 2. I don't know, we're probably out with like AirPod 15s now. I'm not technological, so I have no idea. So willing and able, that's the key thing here. And so if I have a class of 30 kids, at $300, maybe, 15 are willing to buy it and 10 are able to buy it. They can actually pay for that much. But at 150, maybe it's, 20 and 15 can. At 75, maybe it's 25 and 25 can. So it changes. Willing is how much you're willing to pay for it. Able is how much can you actually pay for it. So those things matter when we're looking at demand. So how does demand shift? Well, we have 2 things. Changing quantity demanded is what we were just talking about. You're willing to buy more when the price goes down. And you can see here on this graph, as the price drops, the quantity increases. Now, change in demand, which we're going to talk about in a second here, is, when we're willing to demand more products at every price point or less products at every price point. We're not moving along the line. The line's actually shifting so that we have more ability or less ability to buy products. So when I think about this, I think about when I'm in college. When I got out of college and I had my first job, all my demand shifted. And so at every price point, I'm willing to buy more because I have more money, right? And then I had kids. There goes the money. And it shifted back. My demand decreased because I'm spending money on other things possibly. So it all is relative to the situation. So we're going to look at the factors of demand and things that cause demand to shift. so that you have a lot more of it or a lot less of it. Okay. Number one, changes in consumer income. When there is an increase in income, demand for most goods increases. If there's a decrease in income, demand for most goods decreases. The exceptions of the rule are called inferior goods because people buy less of them as their income rises. Okay, so if we think about steak, if you're in college and you make like 50 bucks a week, you're probably not buying a whole lot of steak because it's too expensive. However, if you have more money all of a sudden, then maybe you buy more of it. Think about all the things you might buy more of. You might buy more clothes. You might buy more cars over your lifetime if you have more money. Whereas if you lose a job and you have less money, maybe you're going out to eat less. Maybe you're buying less expensive foods. Maybe you're, saving your money instead of buying that new car. We see all those things happen. The only time where we see this rule doesn't apply as much is with what we call inferior goods. Ramen noodles, for example. Now, I know some of you like them. They're inferior, all right? They're not as good as others. Ramen's a good that you buy a lot of when you don't have money because it's cheap. But when you have money, you start to buy less of it normally because other things taste better. So in general, though, you have more money, demand increases because you have more money to spend. That's pretty simple. All right, next, changing consumer tastes. Ooh, this is all about popularity and what sells and what is hip and all those things that I don't know about because I'm old. If consumers like a product more based on advertising or experience in using the good, demand increases. If consumers like a good less over time, demand decreases. This is not a shocker, right? We see this all the time. So think about that silly band craze. How old were you? You're probably in middle school or elementary. All of a sudden, everybody wanted silly bands. Well, they became popular, so demand increased. More people wanted to buy them. All right, when the iPhone came out, think about when a new iPhone comes out. There's this huge demand for it, right? Because everybody wants to purchase it. Well, what happens to the demand for the, model that's, if it's an iPhone 10 coming out, what happens to the demand for the iPhone 6? Well, demand drops because there's a newer product people want that's more popular. Clothing styles, all right? When I was in high school, girls, for example, would usually wear jeans or they would wear like pajama pants. Well, that's changed. And now you have different styles of clothing that you see. And as the style changes, the demand for the new styles is bigger and the demand for the old styles kind of drops off. All right. Next, change in a price of a complementary good. If the price of a complementary good increases, this will decrease demand for the original good. If the price for a camera film sharply rises, for example, the demand for cameras will decrease. If the price of a complementary good decreases, this will result in an increase in demand for the original good. If the price of CD players decreases, the demand for CDs will increase. Man, you can tell this is old. Film cameras and CD players. We haven't seen those too much. All right, so let's look at these. A shotgun, all right? If you have your shells for a shotgun go up dramatically in price, what's probably going to happen for the demand for shotguns? Well, it's going to decrease. People are probably going to try to shoot something else that doesn't cost as much money, right? So the good that you need, the shells, when that price goes up, the demand for the other one goes down. Okay, let's think of something else. Okay, a huge SUV like a Suburban takes a lot of gas. So if gas prices go up, what are you going to see with sales of Suburbans? Well, there's less demand, right? Because it costs a lot of money. So increased gas prices, less demand for Suburbans. On the other side, and this is what I saw when I was in college, gas prices went up, everybody's selling their Escalades and Suburbans and stuff. But once the gas prices dropped, demand for Suburbans went up again because people like the big vehicles. They're convenient to have. They can carry a lot of stuff. And if gas prices are low, people want the big vehicles. So that's what we see when two goods go together, like gas and a Suburban or shells and a shotgun. Bet you didn't know we'd be talking about shotguns, huh? There you go. The next one, change. Let me see. Yeah, change in price expectations. Consumers' expectations about the future price of a good influences demand. If consumers expect the price to increase, they try to buy more now before the prices rise. Okay, So maybe you feel like gas always goes up at Labor Day. So a week before Labor Day, you fill up your tank. The demand for gas is up. Maybe you know that school supplies go up at the end of August. So demand for school supplies might be higher in July because you can get a better deal there in your mind. So if you think you know what the prices are going to do, it might change your buying behavior. Change in the number of consumers in the market. If there's an increase in population or the number of people in an area, you're going to have an increase in demand. If there's more people that need more groceries, it makes sense. If there's a decrease in the number of consumers, you'll usually have less demand. So for example, what is this building? That is a new Uline building facility in River Falls. It is massive. If you think about that, that's going to mean a lot more jobs in River Falls. And so what is that going to mean for gas stations? What is it going to mean for restaurants? What is it going to mean for, you know, all these different places? Well, demand for the products is going to increase because there's more people in the area. Now let's think about the opposite. Imagine that the creamery in Ellsworth went out of business. What would that do for demand for groceries or demand for gas or demand for restaurants? Well, all that demand would drop because you have less people in that area. I live in Hammond, and we saw that the highway department moved out of Hammond to Baldwin. And I know for the bars and restaurants in town, you know, they saw a pretty steep drop in demand because a lot of those people after work would go out to eat or have a drink or something like that. Well, now the demand's gone because the people aren't in Hammond anymore. They left. It'd be the same thing with Ellsworth if we lost our creamery. I feel like one skipped here. Oh, there it is. I skipped over it. I'm sorry. You're going to have to go back a little bit there. Changing the price of a substitute good. If the price of a substitute good increases, this will increase demand for the original good. If the price of Coke increases, for example, the demand for Pepsi will increase. If the price of a substitute good decreases, this will result in the decrease in demand of the original good. This is kind of tricky, but look at these pictures here. Let's think about the demand for Pepsi. You can get 3 12-packs of Pepsi for $10. You can get 5 12-packs of Coke for $10. If you have this big sale at Target for Coke, what is that going to do for the demand of Pepsi? Well, obviously, the demand for Pepsi is going to drop because a lot of people, if they see a much lower price for Coke, will buy Coke instead. Now, some are diehards, but a lot of people aren't, right? So if you can substitute it for something else and the other good has a lower price, then you're going to drop in demand, or vice versa. Say that all of a sudden, you know, Coke is, you know, a 12-pack is $10. Well, then people are going to buy Pepsi because Pepsi is a lower price. So sometimes we have things that can be substituted in and out. Okay, let's go back to where we were, through the shotguns and cars and Uline and the creamery. All right, the last notes here, they're already filled in. A few things to think about. When you're graphing supply and demand, which we're not going to do in this class, you will if you're in economics, however. There's a few things you look at. The big one is equilibrium. And this is a price point where the price that sellers want to sell their good at and the price that buyers want to buy at meets. So maybe at $1, they want to sell this much. At $2, they want to sell this much. At $3, they want to sell this much. Whereas at $1, at $3, you want to buy this much. At $2, you want to buy this much. And at $1, you want to buy that much. This is the middle ground where the amount you want to sell and the amount you want to buy is the same. And that's what a business is trying to find, is that middle ground that's even. That way you sell all your products at a price that you want. And for consumers, you're able to buy all the products you want at a price you want. Now, sometimes that doesn't happen, and that's where we find troubled situations, okay? For example, if we have a surplus, say it's a really good year for grain or for corn, well, you have, you know, there's this much demand for it, but there's this much supply. And so the difference between there is a surplus. It's that extra corn or extra grain that nobody wants to buy. And so usually when you have a surplus, there's more than enough, and businesses will decrease the price to try to sell that. If you go to Kohl's, for example, there's always a clearance rack. That's surplus goods. These are the products people didn't want, and they decrease the price to try to increase demand for those products and try to sell them. On the other end, sometimes, whoa, I'm sitting on top of Tickle 'em Yellow. On the other end, sometimes we have a shortage. I always think about Christmas time and popular toys. When I was younger, the popular toy was Tickle Me Elmo. I don't know why, but everybody loved this toy. And so people were getting in fights in stores trying to get this item. So when you have a shortage, you don't have enough. That's, Christmas toys fit that really well. And usually what that means is that the price will increase because there's this high demand for the product, but they're not supplying anymore. And so you would see that people would buy them for ridiculous prices. For example, during coronavirus time, we've seen there's been a huge demand for outdoor gear because people are going more outside because they can be away from people. So I have a kayak for my kids. I paid like $90 for it. During the coronavirus season, it was up to like $290 because there was such high demand and there was a shortage. They weren't producing enough to meet the demand. And so quantity supplied is less than quantity demanded. And a lot of times that leads to higher prices for the goods, or the price stays the same and some people just simply can't get what they want. Good lesson in life there. So that's what we got. If you have any questions, please feel free to talk to your teacher and we'll make sure to help you out. We're going to follow this up. There's going to be a sheet on supply and demand, a little quiz. I think it's a Google Forms quiz. Try that out and check your answers. See how you did. That's going to help you out. And then after you do that, you can complete the assignment for E3 that will be graded. So have a great day. And as always, let us know if you need any help. Take care.